Welcome to another edition of Motivational Sundays with Kevin and Friends. This show was originally created by the 300 motivational quotes that I had for the contents of my books. I was always wondering how quotes landed on other people. Were there conversations that needed to be had, or were they words that just laid there on the pages of papers? Well, got together with a couple of my friends, starting off with Naheem Garcia, Denise Lopes, Chris Everett, Manuel Cucci, Chris and Gilda James Larnez, and the voice of our show, Mr. Otis Spencer. And we were just curious. This is a conversation that needed to be had. So this show was created. We meet here every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we talk about these quotes. And sometimes the quotes seem to bring a smile to our face. And sometimes it touches us in a place in our hearts that makes us want to think and sometimes make it change. This episode is brought to you by RMK Productions and the 10 United Podcast Network. Our motivation and mission for this is to inspire people to share our stories and experiences and create a framework for teaching, learning, and modeling. Our purpose is hope, helping other people every day. So today's quote was inspired mainly by Emmanuel, the conversation of what's going on in this world today. There's good, there's bad, and there's some indifferences, and there's some things we just shake our heads about. So with that said, Mr. Otis Spencer, the voice of our show, will you please deliver not only to my co-hosts and family and friends, but also to our many, many thousands of guests that tune in every week for a little inspiration and a little bit of self-preservation. Will you give us the quote today?
Certainly. All tremble before violence. All fear death. All love life. See yourself in others. Then whom can you hurt? And what harm can you do?
By Buddha. And the reason why I brought that quote up, because I get a lot of quotes, especially from Naheem. But the quote that I originally had for this show was a little bit depressing. And I said I didn't want to go there. But Emmanuel brought up a conversation last week regarding some things that are going on outside of our world. And it just made my head shake. And when this quote came about, I said, maybe we should talk about this. So I'm going to pass this quote over to a young man that has traveled the world. He is one of our military service people. My hat's off to you. And thank you again, Christopher. And I'll do this every single week. I grew up in a military family. So for those of you that have served our country, have made the ultimate sacrifice, and those of you that are serving our country at this present moment, I want to go ahead and say thank you. And Mr. Christopher James, if you don't mind being our leadoff hitter in today's game, how does this quote land on you?
Thank you, Kevin, and again, happy birthday.
Thanks.
I don't mind being first. Point's always been where I've been placed. This quote, it sort of makes me think of myself, and I'll explain that because it's kind of weird. I've always saw the world as not so much as a challenge, but there are certain people that will have to do things for others. There are certain people who have to go first, be up front. And in realizing that and seeing that, you recognize that you're no different from the people you're standing in front of, or the people standing behind you, or the people who are looking towards you for protection. There's no real difference. We're still basically people, still have a heartbeat, still are full of fear and hopes. The only difference is you were placed in the position where now you have to lead. You have to basically protect. You have to think of not only yourself, but of the others. And when I said this made me think of myself, this is simply the way I was raised. This is simply the way I saw the world. I saw the world as a place where there are those who are geared to protect and those who need protecting until they are able to protect. And so This quote, I love it. But my initial response was, that's just life. That's just the way I was raised.
Thank you for that. And thank you for the honest truth coming from Mr. Christopher James. I appreciate that. And I'm going to
Oh,
pass
and
over.
I'm sorry, Kevin.
Go ahead.
And thank you for saying young man. I appreciate that.
Hey, Chris, I'm going to tell you, if any of you guys have ever looked on Chris James social media and looked at some of his pictures in past and present, that man is a beautiful man of color. He has not aged one day. He brings in that fake gray beard in order for him to look a little bit more mature. He's still with his childhood first heart love, Gilda James. He is the original. I won't say original player, but I'm going to tell you, Cupid was on the second team when Christopher joined. Okay, all right. So with that said, I'm going to pass this over to Our Lady in Red. The temperature rose when she stepped in the room. Miss Chris Everett, how does this quote land on you?
Oh boy, oh boy. Good morning, everyone. And again, happy birthday, Kevin. Um, yeah, this quote. This quote got me out of bed this morning. To be quite honest, I was like, oh, am I coming? Am I not coming? I don't know what's going on. And then I saw the quote and I said, I'm up. I gotta go. I gotta be here. And it was the all fear death one that got me, you know. Because to be quite honest, it's something I think about all the time. It's just like, when's it coming? What's it gonna be like? When, like this question just kind of, it just floats in the air. And then it sometimes comes with fear, and sometimes it comes with like a little bit of joy. It's like, oh, it's just what it is. It'll be done. It'll be over. All is good. And it inspires me to um just like to really be present and be in the world with the time that I have. So yeah, it was the all fear death that came in, but the rest of the quote, all, ultimately love life. And I often will walk up the street and I will see people and I say, same, 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 same. We are the same. We are the same. And it brings down the even the thought of harming, right? Like this quote, it's so on point. It really is. So let's see. Any other thoughts that I had about that? I think that's about it for me. Thanks.
Oh, thank you, Miss Chris Everett. It is always nice to hear a conversation that comes from the heart that meets midway to our brain, and we're all standing at crossroads. And even with this quote, it allows you to either continue on where you're at, continue or make a decision to go right or left, or to just stand there and take a minute. And Chris, I thank you for your quote. I'm going to go ahead and see what Miss Denise Lopes has to say. She is one of our educators. I'm going to pick on her today about her book because I know it's coming. It's clicking down, TikTok, TikTok. So Denise, if you don't mind giving us an opportunity to hear your share.
My book is almost done. It's coming out, so no.
Right.
This quote, a little bit, especially like with everything going on. I remember my grandmother used to say, "Lead with love, choose love, always choose love." So it's just like a lot of people in this world, that's not what they're doing. And sometimes you encounter people that's just, it's all about the hate and the thing and the negativity. So you need to know when to leave the table when love is not being served. And fearing that, yeah, that's, I think about it, but just live in the moment and say, this moment's all I have. And I'm going to lead with love, and I'm going to always choose love.
Short and sweet, and the truth spoken. I'm going to go ahead and not many men can say this about another man, but I will say that in this place I feel safe when I say that a brother from another mother has my heart. He is my safe place to go when I'm struggling within my own self. I'm not always the superhero that I put out to be. Some days I have my moments that I have to pick up the phone and call my brother Naheem. And sometimes he keeps me grounded, and sometimes he goes, "Boy," smacks me upside the head, "Wake up," and whatever. So the truth has always been told. And for those of you that have a chance this weekend or this week to go see the holdover, Naheem is one of the stars in it. I was so proud. I'm going to tell you, Naheem, I was walking down the street. I'm spending my birthday weekend in Lake Placid, New York, walking down Main Street, and there's a little tiny theater there. And guess what? I look on the marquee, and the holdover is there. And I'm standing there and going, "It's my brother." And the guy taking my picture, I'm crying. I'm so proud of him. And I was like, why is the movie theater open this morning? I want to go see this movie. So for those of you that have not got a chance to see the holdover, Naheem is one of the stars in it. Please go see it. And I know I'm distracted from the conversation we have right now, but everyone needs love, and I'm giving you my love now. So, the people that follow us, go see that movie. So Naheem, Otis, because I got distracted, can you give us the quote one more time for those that's tuned in?
Certainly. All tremble before violence. All fear death. All love life. See yourself in others. Then whom can you hurt? And what harm can you do? By Buddha.
How does that land on you, Mr. Naheem?
You want to unmute yourself? Yep.
I got it. I got it. Thank you. Thank you. First of all, happy birthday, Kevin. And thank you for that intro. And the good part about the whole is that you can see it on demand. So you ain't got to go to the movie theater, go right to your living room. The problem is it's $20. I don't know when they started doing that, but it's crazy. I just hope I get at least 2 cents out of it. Yeah. All tremble before violence, all fear death, all love life. See yourself in others, then whom can you hurt? What harm can you do? It sounds like we all have something in common. And that's the one thing that we miss in human life, that we have so much in common. We're too busy divided by our color, our religion, our age, and all these other things, not realizing that we have a lot of things in common. Yes, we tremble before fear. All of us do. Yes, we all fear death. We all do. Yes, we all love life. That's why we live it. And we do see each other, and we do see ourselves in others. But we do think that we're something different or something special, not realizing that we have so much in common. And who you end up hurting a lot of times is not the other person, but yourself. You hurt yourself when you hate. You hurt yourself when you tear down at each other. You hurt yourself when you don't acknowledge these other things in other places. So, with that said, I think this quote is very clear, very good, and very common and very equal. And yeah, that's my take on it.
All right. Thank you for your share. And I'm going to segue over to Ms. Gilda James. Not the better half. They're one of the same. So from the James family, Gilda, how does this land on you?
Love thy neighbor.
Love thy neighbor.
Yes, one of the golden rules of the commandment. Love thy neighbor. Yeah, I think it's the second commandment. Yeah, love thy neighbor. That's what I go by.
All right. Short and sweet, love thy neighbor. All right. All right. So
Love thy neighbor.
Larnez, all right, you've got a chance to sit in here and to think. I know that right now everything's sizzling hot over in your part of the world. How does this quote land on you?
This is an amazing quote. And when I look at it, when we deal with loved ones and we're trying to make them understand our perspective, we tend to hurt them with our words, especially if they don't agree with us, right? So this quote, whom can you hurt and what harm you can do? Because when we speak, we're so focused on giving our emotional experience to other people. We want people to understand our pain. Sometimes we translate it the wrong way and we end up hurting the people who we are close to. That's why they say, the ones you love hurt you the most because they know how to push your buttons. And this quote makes me think of the biggest betrayal that we have, which is intimacy betrayal. Because if I open my space to you and I share myself with you, and you use that to hurt me, not intentionally, because we're creatures of habit, right? And if my words can't get through to you in that moment, I have to do something big for you to wake up, right? So we tend to hurt the people we love, but with our words, but we tend to hurt ourselves because instead of you making it tangible to that person, you're bridging a gap between that connection because you can't meet. So this quote right here makes me think about the relationships that I have with my children who are adults, who are going through their things, and I try to meet to make them understand, but we clash, right? And in those times, because we're so close, our words might hurt each other. So I love the fact that Denise said you need to lead with love. I love the fact that Gilda said, love thy neighbor. Yes, you need to, because love gives you understanding, right? Love gives you patience. Love gives you empathy. And love helps you articulate what you're going through in a frequency that is received by all. And that's how this quote hit me.
And I'm glad you said that because it's amazing that the way that you phrase that and the way you put emphasis on the word love, and especially with tying in with love thy neighbor and whatever. Originally, the quote that we had was being a good person does not get you love to get you used. And I wasn't going to use that quote today because I thought it was a very negative quote and didn't support what we do on the show. But the quote was present in the universe. And because of the way, Larnez, you phrased it, you gave the quote life and it gave it clarity and understanding. So I appreciate that. So the quote didn't end up in chapter 13 of a book no one else needs to read. It ended up on as part of the body of a story that needs to be told. So with that said, I'm going to go over to Emmanuel. And at least for me, the reason why we use the quote that we're giving today is because of conversations that Emmanuel has brought up and the things that in this world as we as human beings that we should make important. So I'm going to ask Otis one more time to repeat the quote, just for someone that is kind of thinking, and because they've heard a lot of very powerful shares from some very strong people that need to be celebrated in this life. So for any of those that are in part of our circle of friends, celebrates the gifts that have been presented in front of you. Because with Denise, Naheem, Chris, Manuel, Christopher, Gilda, Lauren, Larnez, and Otis, we give our love freely and ask for nothing in return. Do not waste the gift that you have received and go ahead and pass that on. And that's how you get a return on your investment. Emmanuel, Otis, one more time with the quote.
Certainly. All tremble before violence. All fear death. All love life. See yourself in others. Then whom can you hurt? What harm can you do?
Emmanuel.
So I think
Oh,
this is
man.
like a I think it's like a great choice. I don't know if it's like Buddha himself. I haven't. I really wish I had the courage to spend more time reading more Buddha's text, and I think this is partly the reason why I've kind of like avoided it. Like it's very expressive. He tries to essentially do add resonance to because it's very simple, right? A term like all tremble before violence. But if you sit with it, and even like the past couple weeks, like just looking at like I follow, a lot of people who are showing images of what's going on in the world right now. And if you when you sit with that, the idea that all tremble before violence, if you take it really and you just move on, you miss the ability to let it resonate, right? Because we do, right? Our muscles begin to twitch faster when we're in fight or flight. We literally tremble, right? And you cannot deny that you tremble, right? As someone who's again had a martial arts practice my entire life, this is something I paid tremendous attention to. And but the thing, to be completely just very direct, my problem with writing like this is not that it's not absolutely amazing, wonderful, but it essentially it doesn't give us the power of total responsibility over our potential. And this is probably this is probably like the real difference between what we're trying to unlock in terms of like the literacy. But most people don't realize that like empathy is actually a superpower, right? People think that empathy is something that like you should choose to do to be moral good and whatever, so you can feel good about yourself. But there's power comes from empathy, right? Like putting a gun to somebody's head is having the power of having power by virtue of force, right? It's not real power, right? Power literally comes from empathy. From a neurocognitive point of view, choosing empathy is allowing your full capacity from perspective of your nervous system. This is like literal, like in like, and I can speak to this experience as the martial arts. Like if you think about martial arts, if you think like a martial like Aikido, for example, Aikido literally means the way of harmonious energy, right? Because you're supposed to exercise empathy so that you can be capable of essentially, receiving like what's happening, not seeing it as an attack, but just receiving it and redirecting it, right? You cannot do that without expressing empathy. And so even when I'm saying expressing empathy, you're making like some ideal moral thing, love your enemy. But loving your enemy is actually the way to have dominion over them and power over them. All right. It's very true neurocognitive backed reality. Right. And so this is, I think, a new paradigm of literacy that we should be acknowledging as we come into the future, because it's technology that we have, because technology is constantly tracking our nervous systems, right? And so you can either leverage that power to exercise your empathy and exercise your power, or it'll be manipulated and you'll create more fear, right? So it's a really amazing quote in terms of how much it hides in terms of the secrets of the nervous system. Cheers.
Manuel, I'm going to tell you, if we can put that to a beat and send it out on Spotify and so forth, that message that you just delivered would change the world. Instead of self-destruction, instead of tearing down our neighborhoods, the hearts of our young men and women, that message, I mean, I'm standing 3 feet off the ground after listening to you. That was something that needed to be heard. Much love to you, brother. Much love to you for being, much love to all of you guys for bringing such power to this quote. Otis, one more time with the voice, and let's hear what you've got to say. Hopefully I didn't miss anyone.
All tremble before violence. All fear death. All love life. See yourself in others, then whom can you hurt? What harm can you do? I think you can look at this many different ways. The average person, of course, we're going to tremble when there's violence in front of us. But if you are evil at heart, you get a rush and you want to create that violence. All fear death. The average person, yes, we're going to fear death. But if you're someone sitting there and you're suffering your pain, you have disease, you're ready for death. You're looking for it. You know, I can, and if you're a man of faith, then you'll get a different reaction. There was a situation years ago when I was the manager of a parking garage. I had a cashier that had several shorts. And at that time, if you had a short, then that cashier was responsible for paying back their shorts. This gentleman became totally outraged. And as we went back outside after we had our discussion, I was by the cashier booth. This gentleman went to his car and he picked up a tire and he says, "I'm going to kill you." At that moment, there was a sense of peace that just came over myself. But I did look inside the booth. If I said if he's going to swing, I'll grab the chair to protect myself. But yet there was calm inside of me. So if it was my time, I was ready to go. You want to see yourself in others, definitely, because you want to, I think I looked up the quote, Luke 6:13, you want to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That is my response today.
That said, do unto others as you have others to do unto you. You know, there's a special place for, for an opening act, and then there's a special place for the closer. And sometimes when the opening act is so dynamic and you have to follow people such as all of you, it makes it tough to say something so profound and to land on someone that it becomes unforgettable. When I first looked at the quote, and I'm going to stay steady to my quote, I just spoke to a group of 80 middle schoolers. They call them underserved. And there were only two children that looked like me that would call themselves Black, but they were Indian, Asian, and Hispanic. When I was growing up, my underserved community was called poor. And so I guess this is the new acronym for people that are not making as much money as the people that are dictating our lives. But I had a conversation because January 10th, 2024, I'm going to be speaking to the middle school and high schoolers of Upper Marion, and as part of MLK Day. And I had asked Naheem to help me out a little bit. But I had a conversation with one of the young people, and we talked about Martin Luther King, and we talked about Mandela, which I had had the opportunity of indirectly having Martin Luther King as a 22-year-old child in my house when my mother started Action Incorporated in Dayton, Ohio. I've also had an opportunity to sit and have dinner with a lady by the name of Winnie Mandela. And so when I was talking to this young man about the civil rights movement, I said, Martin Luther King, people say that he was assassinated, and that's what's written in our history books, but he was murdered. Anytime you point a gun, as Manuel says, you don't make a life better, you destroy lives thereafter. And Martin Luther King was actually at the point of the civil rights movement when people's hearts and minds were open to change. And as he started to crest over that to where change could happen, they took his life. And I compare the difference between the struggle of Mandela and what we had to deal with in the United States. The United States played chess with Martin Luther King. And when they had checkmate, they took him out. When South Africa imprisoned Mr. Mandela for 20-something odd years, and then he was released, what happened to Mr. Mandela? He became president of a country and tried to change apartheid. America here, we were fearing the fact that Martin Luther King, with the power that he had of joining all people together, could have been our first American president of color. So they played chess to prevent that. South Africa, they played checkers, and look what happened. A man became king. Ask yourself every single day, young women, young men of color, that title of underserved is not. They're waiting for you to be served. It is your time now to be queens and kings. And remember, the gift that we have, violence never caused anyone happiness. It only broke the hearts of people that were willing to love. We all fear death, but most of us that are true to our souls, we respect that because we live a life that's worth living and there's stories to be told. Try to look at yourself in the eyes of others and ask, if your skin was melanated, would you want the person looking back at you to treat that person the way that you've been treating other people? And if your answer is any different than where it is right now, then you have the power to change, because the mind is led by the heart first. At the end of the day, who do you hurt? Middle schoolers and high schoolers in our future. So with that said, I'll leave it on that note and make you think. So the holidays are coming. I hope everyone is enjoying the celebration of the event of family and friends, not necessarily the holiday itself, because the holiday is a reason for us to get together. For those of you that have people like Naheem, Chris, Gilda, Denise, Otis, and Larnaz, Emmanuel, sit by the fireplace or sit by the dinner table and document and hold these stories that we share with you to heart, because these are the stories that need to be passed down to our kids. And that's what makes the holidays. Remembering what Uncle Otis said. Remember Uncle Naheem, Aunt Denise, Brother Christopher, Sister Gilda. Remember my favorite person, Larnaz, and remember my cousin, Manuel. And like I said, when Otis says grace during the holiday dinner, remember the words and the power of his words. All right? Because education is not designed to make you comfortable. Education is designed to make you think. And hopefully this holiday, you do a lot of thinking. And hopefully this holiday, if you're not given education, receive education. And if your education has been tainted, you have the power to change it. What's taught doesn't have to be caught. Be the power and be the change you want it to be. So with that said, I wish you a happy holiday. Thanks all my friends for your thousands of birthday wishes. I love this life. I love the people in this room. And with that said, we normally go around the table, but I just want people to leave this show and think. My grandfather always said, when you get to a point in life that you can make a difference in someone's life, it's your duty to serve. Reach one, teach one. And Naheem, will you do me a small favor? Will you say our very last quote before we leave? How do we end our show?
And with that, we fade to black.
And we're out. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, everyone.